Decode 6. Trying to engage to the opposite sex attention in a very lingering way, which third I turned off. In my previous decode, I actually talk about the collectivism being outcasts. A little context about it, just pretty much talking about those who comes from a very strong collectivism background, and when they have a taste of individualism in the Western world, they want the individualism by outcasting themselves, which has consequences towards the end. So if you're interested in that, that's the previous video. Alright, so let's talk about this topic. I didn't know what's the best way to frame this topic sentence, and I think this may somehow will kind of click you. This topic will probably everyone will has experience in this sort of setting. Now I have to say to myself, the main reason why I made this video is I actually came across first time in my life as the opposite sex who try to be very lingering, which I find it very turned off. Which I first time I ever experienced it, but I'll explain a lot more on great depth details later on. This is the first time for me ever talk about relationship, so I'm not a relationship expert. I'm only talking about videos about what's my experience and what is the decode, what is the feeling, and this and that. Feelings matters. I'm sorry, in the 21st century. I think I'll just put it on a side note. I know one of the university or one of the sexual assault for the rape thing, what's going on is one of the questions, or one of the part of the is talking about regards to those who finding a linger person who constantly contact them even though they're disinterested on the same person, or rejected that person but keep calling it back, and this and that, which is if that person is keep insisting, that's actually part of the sexual, I believe is one of the sexual assault. And as well, today's topic is nothing related to regards to rejection. This more related towards not verbally but also in present time. And as I mentioned to you guys before, this is the first time I ever experienced in my side, but I've tried to be the linger person from the attracted from the opposite sex. So a bit of context of the story. So I just recently gone into TAFE, and one of the days I've realized I'll be heading to city to see my friend who flew from Tasmania, and he wanted me to meet up with him. And I've realized one of the there's no trains running on the train line that I often get, so I decided to go to a different train line so I can drive there, so at night I can always catch this train and drive back home. Not a big deal. And I've realized one of my classmates happens to live on that same a suburb away from this the how would I say it? The place that I'm gonna stop to, and I didn't show any interest or anything. I'm just showing that, well, tonight our train line 7 o'clock at night is the last train, and for this girl she has to go through 2 trains, and because she wanted to stay back in the library and she wants to do her work, which is cool. I just said it in a way like, oh, you know what, I wanted to offer you a ride to that station because I am heading to that station. And she think about it, I think a while about it, And she said yes. And this is the first time for me to ever offer anyone for a lift or a drive or anything, especially to a girl. In my life, I never have engaged as much girls in my life. I'm not as attractive. I'm not a smooth talker. I'm not like one of those guys. And yeah, I'll just leave that on the side. Just a bit of context about me. So before you're jumping on conclusion, all right. So obviously, when we're on, on our car ride, she talks about her personal life and her goals, and when she's talking about all that, I'm just there. I'm like, she's at the emotional state. I may as well just talk about my personal life and how I get to Melbourne, this and that, and how I, keep a distance away from family politics by moving down to Melbourne, etc, etc, etc. And somehow our stories become very similar, the family setting, the way the family politics and things like that. We were the apple of the family. We were the black sheep. So somehow we kind of connected by doing that. And I remember she's saying that, she wants to find a boyfriend. And I said to her, oh, okay, you've been finding, online dating and this and that. And she said, oh, my previous boyfriend is a doctor who abused me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't give her any relationship advice, but what I was saying is that I'm not expert in relationship, but I could say that if I want to show my loved one to my parents, I hope the person would treat my parents right, attend to all the family function event or perhaps the traditional days, right? And she kind of got touched by it because maybe nobody has mentioned to her about it. And I said to her, well, what do you like to look into a man? And she's like, oh, she wants to look into a man and she wants to get married and this and that. And I said again, I'm no expert, relationship expert, but I try to talk to her saying like, if when you engage in a marriage, both of them has to be strong, knows what their goals, you really understand what you're up against, because if you want to have kids, which she says yes, you need to know what is your life. You can't just be a career woman, a mother, a housewife, and a wife, 4 of them in one big go, in an immediate way. Obviously, when the child gets to a certain age that able to go to school by himself, things like that, then you're able to think that way. But you can't just think about it straight away, And she's like, oh, well, I can do all that in one same go. Even my child is being brought up. But I didn't push any further, and I'm like, okay, like I said, I'm not expert in this area, and I just leave it there. But somehow, she got my number, and somehow we she kind of exchanged her messages and things like that. And things gets a lot weird the next week after that, upcoming week after that. And she started to give me some, gifts, like, just lunch and things like that. And I better have to get the dog before I continue to talk about this. Damn it. Alright, I've sorted out the dog. Let's continue with the topic. So, okay, where am I now? Okay, so pretty much, she never has engaged in that sort of conversation with a guy, because she's been saying her age is 25 and she wants to date someone the age, like my bracket of age, 28. And she said a lot of guys that's my age, who are immature, doesn't think of marriage and things like that. And I said to her, maybe you should try a different age group. If that's life, you have to try and error. That's life. That's part of life. So, now I understand where I'm going. So after that, the next week, and she wanted to buy me, I think it was breakfast. I think it was, okay, I think I'm jumping the story too much now. So after that conversation, I usually go to TAFE a lot early, like half an hour early or 1 hour early. I usually wanted to do my assessments or my homework on the laptop before class begins. And you know, she always, wherever I go, whether I go to the library, whether I go to a different room, whether I go to a canteen, she always spotted me and immediately jumping straight like a tiger and having all that conversation through. And I just find myself, I'm like, Jesus, I gotta do my assessment, and can't you tell I'm doing my homework? But when she talks non-stop and this and that, and things gets a lot weird when it comes to lunchtime. She's like, oh, what's my favorite food? And she tried to grab my attention even though I engage with conversation with everyone. And so, you know, the classmate has noticed she's different as well and why she's behaving like that. And I'm saying back in my head, oh gosh, I hope she's not one of those lingering type, this and that. And that's when later she engaged a lot more, you know, buying me breakfast with which I didn't ask for, and she just wanted to have attention with me and, you know, just engage with it. And I'm just saying back in my head, man, I really don't want to do anything relationship in this class, anything in setting. The last time and she's not the one that I wanted to date. If there's, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying if I wanted to date someone, I'm not saying I don't see any attractiveness that makes me want to. And plus, she's a very emotional type. I know this is gonna sound, everyone's gonna hate me for saying this. The reason why I'm saying she's emotional, because she always loved to talk about emotional everywhere we go, everywhere what we do. And I'm just there, I'm like, you know, sometimes it's great to talk about that, but not constantly every single day. And I'm not saying she has an emotional problem or anything like that. If that's her for wanting to talk about that sort of stuff, then let her be. But I wanted to be around because myself, I'm an emotional type as well, and I wanted someone who's really, really opposite. Like, I want to really, really, like, you know, doesn't talk about emotional, who always drive me towards positivity in life, because she's a black sheep and I'm a black sheep of the family. We are very negative, and I need someone that be very positive. But on the scale of her appearance, I don't find any attractiveness, but it comes across as lingering. And yeah, I don't know where this video is going to go to. I just recorded, if any of you guys are still listening to. But what I'm trying to say is things get a lot worse and worse, and she's trying to grab my attention, trying to talk, trying to engage, and I just step right back at it. And I'm like, no, I can't do this. You know, like, I need to somehow have to let her know she's affecting my studies now. I can't even study. All we talk about is just emotional stuff all the time through, every single day. You know, every time we meet, and I'm just there, I'm like, I don't have this sort of capability to think of it about it every day. We can talk about it once or twice, but can't we talk about it all every single day? But what I'm trying to, and I'll tell you another story as well. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying those who are attractive or not attractive. There's always the sense of a turned off. And I'm starting to say to myself, why am I like this? And the way how I see this girl is behaving, it reminds me of me chasing in the past of other girls as well, who just brush me off and do this sort of stuff. And I always say to myself, oh, they must be picky, they must be not having a good time, or, you know, maybe we didn't enjoy any attractiveness or things like that. But it just made me realize how, you know, all of us will go through that sort of phases, whether you want that person, whether you don't. And it's a very tough market in today's world to able to think about or even talk about it. And it's like another scenario that, you know, I mean, I talk about myself and try to come across as being needy, very lingering, and it's very unattractive to think that way. Constantly find that person where they are, what they do, this and that, and it's kind of come across as a stalker, an unwanted person to talk with. And I wanted to make this video not regards to my story and, you know, what's my experience with, you know, girls on the other hand, but also I wanted to make this video on behalf on when I did do my camping trip, and one of the guys who was really into this girl, and he tried, even though we were in the camping trip for 9 days, we were there every single day. We see the same person every single day. And as a brother, you know, for me as a brother, I'll always help my brother to do whatever he needs to do to get his trophy. But it took me a long time to figure out, until it was the 9th or 8th day of our camping trip. And he tried his best to accommodate her. He tried his best to to fulfill her, to grab her attention and being there with her. And I'm just there, I'm like, the way what he's doing, I see myself as like that. And I feel ashamed. And I start to realize, wow. After all, even though I never experienced that sort of stuff when I saw my mates back in the days, or high school, I never get to see that, but to see this playing live right in front of me, it makes it realize, you know, watching an animal show, how the male, how they fight off to compete with the girl, and usually the girl will probably sit back and find out who's the best of the best male, who wins the trophy, with his physiques, with his attack, beating down, with pushing, shoving or fighting or things like that. But obviously we live in today's world, we don't do that sort of behavior. But seeing like this, he just keep following her like a pigeon. When you see a male pigeon following the female pigeon, everywhere it goes, along the way, circling around and with his neck, things like that. But for me, when I see my friend, he does it. And of course we have to behave in an adult way, a more civilized way. And are we, well, I can't say are we, I'm just saying it's a very tough gig to draw the attractiveness, and now you come across as being a stalker or a lingerer, which came across as being even more turned off. Now people may say as a creep, they just wouldn't let me go with this and that. And to me, to look at this is just, based on the experience, it's just realize, wow, we as humans, we are actually not much different to an animal. The way how we behave, when we linger around to ask for, you know, what's their validation, whether is there any possibility of engagement in a relationship in the future. We're not far from it when I look at it, and we did our best, we tried our best, we tried to nurture one another, we try to win someone's heart and things like that. But the one that we always attracted to, or we find the one is the maybe potential the one, it's a long big battle. It's just looking at it now, it's just seeing it all the way through like a video clip. It's very difficult, especially, I can't say for, well, I have to say for girls and guys it's very difficult, but I know guys will be a lot more difficult, because guys have to be the pressure of approaching, doing, you know, have to be you know, the 3-second rules and things like that. It's very difficult for a guy to do that in today's world, because as today's world, that may come across as being a creep or stalker, or, you know, just being, it's a very direct approach if you think about it, whether it's in the bar, whether it's PUA or anything like that. But when you go up and approach a girl and you have this confident without any nervous or things like that, it's very difficult. But those who gets to know one another a bit more as in friends and try to linger on and hope for the best that one day that person will fall for that person, it is a very difficult gig. I must say that. Like I said, I'm no professional in relationship, but or any experience in relationship, because I only dated a girl in 1 month, and other than that, I am no expert on or any experience to talk about this. But what I can say is, it's very difficult. But yeah, that's the topic of the day, I guess. I don't know if this makes sense or anything. I don't want to come across as I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, that's a video.